Good afternoon, everyone. If everyone could take their seats, I'd like to call to order the regular board meeting of Tuesday, February 11th, 2020. As is our custom, we begin our board meetings with the singing of our national anthem. We are very honored today to have a video of students from Fish Creek School singing "O Canada." I would ask that everyone please stand and follow the lead of our students. We'd like to acknowledge the traditional territories and oral practices of the Blackfoot Nations, which includes the Siksika, the Piikani, and the Kainai. We also acknowledge the Tsuut'ina and Stoney Nakoda First Nations, the Métis Nation, Region 3, and all people who make their homes in the Treaty 7 region of southern Alberta. I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome all of our staff and public in attendance at today's meeting, representing our stakeholder groups from the Alberta Teachers Association, Local 38, Bob Cocking, and I understand congratulations are in order as you won your election. Congratulations. Calgary Board of Education Staff Association, Rayanne Royal, Canadian Union of Public Employees, Local 40, Troy Killam. From our Elementary School Principals Association, Leanne Betzworth. From our Senior High School Principals Association, Jennifer Gorkoff and Mike Wilson. Thank you so much for being here today. Our first item of business is to approve the agenda for today's meeting. Ms. Minor, do you have any changes that need to be noted?
Madam Chair, the following agenda change requests have been received: that item 9.2.1, Chief Superintendent's update, be removed from the consent agenda. In addition, the Office of the Corporate Secretary received one request for public comment on the topic of National Sports School. Whereas today's board meeting agenda does not have any reports related to this topic, the board is being asked to consider allowing this public comment to proceed at today's meeting.
And just for everyone's understanding, in accordance with the board meeting procedures, the Board of Trustees typically ask to receive public comments that are connected to the business before the board at a particular public meeting. In this instance, this type of public comment would usually be received in connection with student accommodation planning. However, the board has been asked by the speaker to consider receiving their public comment today. I would request that a trustee bring forward a motion regarding this. Trustee Herdman?
The Board of Trustees authorized the receipt of public comment at the regular meeting of February 11th, 2020.
So thank you, Trustee Herdman. So we'll call for the vote. Those in favor of the motion? That's unanimous. Thank you. So now could I please have a motion that the agenda be approved with the proposed changes? Trustee Adams, thank you. All in favor? That is carried unanimously. Thank you. As there are no awards or recognitions scheduled today, our next business deals with results focus. Today we have a school presentation from Jack James High School. Director McNeil, would you please introduce this report?
Good day, Chair Dennis, trustees, Chief Hussey, senior administration, staff, students, and honored guests. My name is Scott McNeil, and I have the distinct pleasure of serving as the Education Director for Area 3 schools, as well as early learning. As the Education Director responsible for supporting Jack James High School, I am very proud to be here with you today and be able to introduce to you some of the outstanding staff and students of Jack James High School. In terms of some background, for those of you not familiar with the school, Jack James High School is located in the community of Forest Lawn in southeast Calgary and serves approximately 350 students. They serve students from all across our city. This school is an excellent example of personalized learning community, and staff place an emphasis on providing authentic, engaging, and practical opportunities for all learners that cross their threshold. Jack James students are supported and encouraged to achieve to their very best academically and personally each and every day. The school community works together to ensure that students receive extensive supports for their learning throughout their time at Jack James and place a significant importance on students transitioning from high school to the workplace and post-secondary institutions. I would now like to turn over the podium to Principal Jennifer Gorkoff so that she may introduce three of the students that have generously volunteered their time to accompany her here today, and for them all to have an opportunity to share about the excellent work that takes place at Jack James High School in support of the Calgary Board of Education R2 achievement. Ms. Gorkoff.
Good afternoon. It is my pleasure to present to you today some of the highlights of CTS and transitions to the workforce that occurs at Jack James High School. Our student presenters will share with you their stories of learning and future plans. Today's presentation will share some of the learning that our students experience that does not only happen within the walls of our building, but how opportunities in CTS training and the workforce is preparing our students to be active and contributing members of society. As part of our programming specifically, our courses at Jack James are planned so students in our shops, our CTS areas, are attached to a workplace readiness or workplace practicum component. The CTS program strives to address career development in a way that emphasizes personalized learning, relevance, transitions, and partnerships. It does so by providing opportunities for all students to explore their abilities, interests, and passions, and develop knowledge, skills, and attitudes so they can be fulfilled and productive citizens. It provides opportunities for all students to develop foundations to manage transitions within their learning, as well as moving into further education, training, or the workplace. This influences the growth of a career development culture in our school and our community. Many students come to Jack James High School specifically for the support we offer in completing high school. Although many of our students are capable of earning a high school diploma, most students come to us with the initial goal of earning a high school certificate, most likely the K&E certificate, and then working towards a diploma in their 4th year or leaving high school with a job or post-secondary training arranged. Many of our students focus their high school education and developing skills and attitudes to prepare them for the workforce. Our programming specifically supports students not only to get the skills needed to be a successful employee, but in many cases, this is a student's first experience to a trade. I would like to please invite up Ms. Jazzy Harrison, a grade 12 student, who will share with you some of her experiences.
Hi, my name is Jazzy. I am a grade 12 student at Jack James High School. I want to talk to you about my experience in the childcare program. As many of you know, at Jack James, we have a childcare that is in our building that is offered to the public. Parents drop off their kids and we work with professionals in childcare to learn how a childcare center works. We learn everything from how to play with the kids to preparing healthy snacks for them. We run 2 different preschool programs, one on Monday, Wednesday, and the other is on Tuesday, Thursdays in the morning. Childcare has made me see each individual as well as the world with a more open mind towards everything. Everyone comes from a different background and have something unique to offer. I have learned so much while taking this class and going through the learning sessions in human care and how to work in a childcare facility. Learning about a child's development, forming by culture, language, and many other factors, I have learned about patience, not only with the kids, but with everything I do. I was also able to participate in fashion class as another shop option. I was able to make different items and learn how to follow specific directions to make beautiful products. As an example, when I think about my future, I know that I want to work as a childcare worker, and I plan to come back for a semester next year so I can finish my childcare certificate. I am more confident in myself both in and outside of childcare. It sounds weird when you say you learn how to play, but when you are working with kids, it is important to make every interaction count. When you come to school, you are able to learn a lot in classes. If you have a class like this one, you get to apply that learning to an experience that can help you get a job. When I leave Jack James, I will have more than just babysitting on my resume. I will leave with an actual childcare experience.
So this ribbon skirt that Jazzy is wearing, part of our fashion class actually collaborates with a lot of our Indigenous community supports, along with our Indigenous learning leader, Miss Jamie Willis, who's here supporting. And we do a lot of collaboration within our building and cross-curricular. So fashion works with Indigenous students. They're currently working with art to do some tea staining with blessed plants, tobacco plants. And so our students get an opportunity outside of the curriculum to see how they can apply some of these skills to the real world, but also to creating some connections. Our childcare program is not in isolation in our building. So often we see the little 3-year-olds trotting through our school, and we invite people to come in and celebrate. And our students in childcare actually work on preparing snacks. They look at nutrition. They work with parents. Right now we have a screamer, so they're working on a lot of patience, a lot of crying when kids are getting dropped off. But it also helps our school community really understand kind of what it's like outside of the walls, and especially with teenagers, helps them make some smarter choices right now when they're not in school, when they see those little kids running around. Our CTS program is designed to help develop skills for senior high students to apply to their daily lives and prepare into the entry into the workforce. In our CTS courses, and it is tough to see, but we have a specialized rubric that's created by our CTS teachers to help students speak to the competencies in both the programs and in the workplace practicum. And our teachers meet with our students at the beginning of each semester. They meet halfway through with in midterm assessment, and then at the end, where students can sit and look at the competencies and speak to them directly. This helps for goal setting. This helps for students to be aware of their areas of strength, but it also helps for students to understand where they might need some support moving forward. Many of our students they're fantastic, but have some areas of support, social, emotional, or academic, where teachers get involved to help them be not only productive in our building, but when they go for an interview or they go to the workforce, how can they advocate for themselves? And this rubric is used throughout our entire CTS program for students to be able to speak to these skills. This also helps our students when they're preparing for an interview, speak to the skills that they're focusing on and where their areas of strengths are. By looking at these competencies in the CTS program of studies and the workplace readiness, students are leaving a program with a document that can help them prepare and apply to other classes that they're taking. We offer extensive support in our building through our resource program. So Ms. Drake is here today as one of our supports in the building to help students speak to resume writing and even the simple task of going to get a social insurance number to get a job. So the supports often start with the very basics within our building. The goal is to earn a high school certificate or diploma, but most importantly, our goal is for our students to be well-rounded citizens in our school community and beyond. And by applying these competencies in our programs to teaching and learning, students can then start to understand the why and the how they're going to be able to achieve those goals. I would now like to invite up Ms. Kiana, a grade 12 student, to share her experience.
Hello, my name is Kiana Suku. I am currently a grade 12 student at Jack James High School. When I was in junior high, I did not really enjoy foods class. We learned the basics, but just made snacks and simple foods. When I got to Jack James, they encouraged me to give commercials food a try again. I tried it and I found that I really do love cooking and baking. But what changed for me was that it had a bigger purpose. I love running the lunch hours and making food to sell to others or for special events. I have tried other shop options, but I feel like I am most successful in working in the kitchen. When I came to school at first, I was quite loud when I became frustrated. During my time in the kitchen, I was able to channel that energy and frustration and learn what it would be like to work in a real commercial kitchen. We get to work with 3 Red Seal chefs who have been in a restaurant before. I am now preparing for regional skills competition. We will go and compete against the whole province to show our skills around making great food. I am excited and nervous as it will be a lot of work and pressure, but it will prepare me for when I leave high school. I am also preparing for theater work experience. I have also had an opportunity to tour stage classes to see what it would be like to take the culinary program there. I have also applied and went for an interview with the Marriott Hotels. I was not successful in getting the internship due to the fact that I am currently working another job to support my family and paying bills with some of the household chores. I believe that the experience for applying and putting myself out there will really help me in the future. You can see that we did butcher half a cow in the top left. Did not like that very well. I realized during this activity I did not want to be a butcher when I grow up, that's for sure. Our school has a lot of one-on-one time with our teachers and chefs. We are always getting feedback on how we can do better. Plus, we want to make good food as our peers and teachers eat it every day. We even got to cater for some CBE events and show them that we are more than just a lunch spot. By being able to have a program like this at my school,
I have been able to grow my confidence and feel like I am capable of succeeding. I know that when I go out there, I will be able to know the industry standards because the chefs I work with told us, The chefs I work with hold us to them. I have learned that I am capable of working with a team and even have a skill for promoting our food as a cashier. I think that having programs like these are a huge reason for students who don't know where they want to go in life, and they can find a direction. Okay.
Our commercial foods program also works directly with a horticulture program where students grow herbs and lettuces and share between the two programs. And so students can see from even just the very initial stages of how these organizations can work together. And that half a cow that came in was quite a topic when it was brought in, wheeled into the fridge. I think when someone went to put their lunch in and realized, okay, we have a guest in here today. So we are not a large high school. With a small staff, we are often limited to the opportunities we can offer within our walls. We seek many opportunities and experiences to enrich student learning and introduce them to community opportunities to connect that learning. One of the things we do is really reach out to some of the opportunities for our students to learn credits through volunteering or work experience, through experiences in our community. One of the partnerships we have is with Clifton Manor, part of the Brenda Stratford Foundation, where students weekly go and work with patients with dementia. And they work on art projects and earn volunteering credits. And it also gives students an idea of the world beyond our walls and our own perspective. Did any of you guys do open minds, opening? So Jazzy was a part of that program. Another program that our students are just starting up is Turning Points at SAIT, and it's a 2-week immersion of seeing the different programs, post-secondary opportunities, and employment opportunities for students to go, and really pushing that thought of looking at post-secondary and what do students need to do to work towards that. For many of our students, the thought of going to post-secondary, this is the first opportunity or the first introduction to, yes, this is capable for me, and the supports that we offer for funding to make that happen. Knowing that many of our students come from a socioeconomic background that might not support that without school supports. Careers are not defined as the jobs and occupations, but rather as the whole packages, expressed roles, knowledge, choices, and passions. Careers are created by individuals who act upon those passions, interests, and abilities, and combine them with the external options and circumstances. We are extremely fortunate in our building to have a strong dual campus and off-campus support for students to gain these experiences outside of our walls. These students connect with our work experience teacher and our staff who are very, very flexible to allow for opportunities at SAIT or other programs. And last year, we had 72 students who applied for dual credit, RAP, or exploratory programs in the CBE out of a population of 340. So a significant number of our students take advantage of these training experiences to gain knowledge and help them guide their path to the workforce. And so I'd like to invite Jacob, a grade 11 student, so second semester, grade 11, to share some of the experiences he's had in a year and a half. Coming up, Jacob.
Good afternoon. My name is Jacob Canapace, and I'm currently a grade 11 student at Jack James. When I first came to Jack James, I had no set direction of what I wanted to do. The transition from junior high to high school was different than I expected and felt really excited of how many options I was given. When I began in the auto body shop, there was an immediate jump of responsibility from what I experienced in the shops from junior high. Right away, at the introduction level, I was able to gain an understanding of the industry that I could potentially go into one day. Auto body paved the way of what I wanted to do. It really allowed me to have a more hands-on approach on the job. And from this experience, I knew that I didn't want to have an office job. I knew that working with my hands and being out in the shop is where I wanted to be. I have now completed intermediate and advanced auto body, and I feel like I have really good understanding of what happens in the real world. We have customers that come in from the community, and we can hear what they are looking to have done and completed by a specific deadline. The students and our teachers work together as a team as we work on the cars. We're at the same time building our skills by practicing on skills on scrap metals and learning about how important safety is for a shop. In my grade 10 year, I was able to go and compete in the skills competition. This competition took 5 months of training during the evenings and weekends. The teachers really believed in us as a team. We took home 5th place at the provincial level. The skills competition was harder than I thought it would be. During the competition, they threw a lot of challenges at us. We had to apply new skills and knowledges as we competed against other students across the province. There was a lot of stress put on the team, and it provided me with the experience where I could apply what I learned in a fast-paced environment. I know experiences like this will help me be successful in the trade that I choose for my future. I'm currently participating in a dual credit program with SAIT Joint Pipe Fitters, and I am on the waitlist for an aircraft maintenance internship. I love that I get to spend hours working with the instructors that I could potentially work with in the future and gain a really good experience. I get to go to the SAIT campus where I am able to learn in a classroom setting and then immediately apply those skills in a shop. It makes me motivated for my future, knowing that I have all this knowledge and skills. I know I will be able to quickly get out there and apply for a job once I'm done my education. I'm really thankful for the administration and teachers at the school that make all these opportunities possible. If it wasn't for them coming in and talking to us about what is out there, I would have never had the experiences that I've had so far. The teachers at Jack James really push you to be the best you can be. It is pretty cool that a lot of the shop teachers are from the industry and can tell us what it's like in a shop outside of high school. They really know what makes someone successful, and they don't just skim over how to do a skill. They go more in depth, and you have to learn why you are doing each step of the process. As I finish up my high school experience, I'm excited that I haven't quite hit all the shops yet. Next year, I get to go into an intermediate level electrical plumbing course. These courses will help me in applying for a RAP position that will lead me to SAIT. By taking all of these shop courses, it allows me to have the chance to test out the various trades before I make a final decision of what I want to do while attending SAIT. My parents have told me they are very proud of me. They cannot believe the kind of learning and opportunities that I am given here at SAIT, Jack James. They see my high school experience as preparing me for adulthood. They even say I am more like an adult each day. When I left junior high, this was not what they thought my high school experience would be, but I am very grateful it is. I really believe the more opportunities that students are given to see what is out there provide them with the best chance of finding their passion. I know that as I approach my grade 12 year, I'm excited for my future and what I can show the world when I leave.
So I must say, I was absolutely overwhelmed when I put out a message to my CTS teachers about who could they nominate to come and speak today. Even more overwhelmed was the amount of students that came up to me and that said, Ms. Gorkoff, I'm ready to go. Let's go talk to people about what we're doing. I narrowed it down to 3, but the list was really, really long. And it just speaks to what our students are experiencing and how they're speaking to the work that's happening and the teaching and learning that's happening in our building. Student success is our #1 goal. By supporting students to gain the skills needed to be a contributing member of society, we see the positive difference that these CTS experiences make in the lives of our students and their families. Without these programs and supports, the employment focus they offer, many of students would not have the opportunities they're given to be successful in high school and when they transition out into the working world. For many of our students, what they experience in our shops or in a workplace environment is often the first real success in their education. Many of them do use this to help contribute home with their families. Our students can speak to a future and have goals they're working towards, not something that can be easily captured in a typical high school assessment. So thank you so much for your time and allowing us to share with you some of the work that's happening at Jack James and hearing from some of our students. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
It's a great honor for me to be able to thank the presenters of this somewhat overwhelming commitment to education and to students. And I'm going to just digress a little bit to go through the presentations individually. First off, I want to talk to Scott. Scott McNeil, Director. In 1992, Scott was teaching at Captain John Palliser School. I believe it was his second year in the education business, having taken a little bit of a circuitous route. Across the hall from him was this 32-year veteran who had just returned from being president of Calgary Public and was having some difficulties adjusting to the classroom again. And Scott, I want to thank you for the help you gave me at that point in time. It was greatly appreciated, and the system greatly appreciates your leadership right now. Thank you. Next, let me talk to Jennifer, okay? The principal. As you can see, the passion and commitment which Jennifer expresses is obvious. Jennifer has provided for Jack James a stability which it greatly appreciates. Not only students, but community and the system. And this is a challenging role. All of our principalships are challenging. Jack James has some unique challenges. And you have glommed on and moved in and are really exhibiting great leadership. So thank you once again. Next, let me talk about Jazzy. Jazzy, what a wonderful presentation. And I have to use a quote that I will try to use in the odd time when I speak to my fellow colleagues around this table. You stated, everyone comes from a different background and has something unique to offer. Isn't that the mission of public schools? And nothing exhibits more than what you presented today. It made me proud and it made me pleased, and I'm glad you feel that way because I think that's the way our people do. Kiana, talking about chefs, okay? Wow, that was inspiring for a guy whose only knowledge of chefs is Chef Boyardee. You know, you even lead me to believe that perhaps I could learn a few things. Incidentally, my oldest grandson, whenever he stays with us, he wants to watch these cooking programs on television, these competitions. It's actually wonderful. And he actually occasionally cooks for me, so I appreciate that even more. But anyway, thank you very much, Kiana, for that, and I certainly encourage you to follow up in those type of endeavors. Lastly, Jacob, okay, in the shops, a grade 11 student, and preparing for the world of work, okay? And of course, you mentioned the real world. I always take exceptions of that. Jack James is the real world that you're in right now, okay? And I have a sense you're living it well, and I would believe that you would continue to do so. You, of course, are choosing a field, or apparently at this time, auto body and that kind of stuff, and we know that world is changing, but everybody's world is changing. We're looking at electric cars, we're looking at autonomous driving cars, and you will be in a position where you can assist the world in that transition, which is exactly what we want for all of our students. So with that, I'd like to thank the Jack James team for coming here, because it is a team, and it is Team Calgary Public, and I think we greatly appreciate your efforts on everybody's behalf. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much. That will be my favorite part of today, I know it. So today we have one request for public comment. I would ask our speaker to focus on matters before the board today and refrain from speaking on the personal character or performance of any individuals, department, or school in accordance with our board meeting procedures. Chris Chalice, please come forward to the podium. State your name and any organization you represent. You will be given 3 minutes today to address the board.
Good afternoon. My name is Chris Chalice. I'm a parent of a student at the National Sports School. Madam Chair, Madam Secretary, Board of Trustees, staff, and teachers. You'll find that my topic is not on today's agenda, and I thank the Chair and Corporate Secretary for allowing me to speak. I'm here as a stakeholder to talk about the future of National Sports School. Since a meeting held with the CBE and parents on November 18th, 2019, my daughter is in 10th grade at National Sports School, and all she thinks about and talks about with her friends is the big question that is looming over all of them who are involved with NSS, and that is, will my school be closed / moved? As you're aware, for teenagers, high school is not just a school, but it's an identity, which is what makes this even more challenging as the kids are caught in the middle of this potential closure and having to potentially start and find a new identity come September. NSS is unique. So unique, it's the only school of its kind in Canada. And I applaud the CBE for having the foresight 25 years ago to start a program and work with high-performing athletes in the city so that they could graduate high school. Kids from all over the country come and attend this school. Putting a bullet in the school does nothing to help these kids, these at-risk kids. The CBE mission statement, as you're full aware of, states each student, in keeping with their individual abilities and gifts, will complete high school with the foundation of learning necessary to thrive in life, work, and continued learning. The reason I've requested to address the board today on a non-agenda item is because the school closure process that's being followed, and I respect the process, but due to timing pressures, is not allowing for enough time before a final decision can be made by the board. In particular, it's not enough time for NSS to actively recruit for grade 9 students for the September school start, and in particular for parents like myself to know whether I need to register my daughter in a new school for September or not. Some school registrations deadline for September is already March 15th, which is rapidly approaching. If the process runs its course and a board vote does not occur until June, the process will render the votes and the voices of you, the board, ineffectual, as the students will have found other schools and or no grade 9 students will have registered. Thereby, the process itself will accomplish what the board has intended and will be undermining the Board of Trustees' voting power, and NSS will be effectively closed before and without any trustees' final say. We understand the measures being considered are solely driven on costs. Working with the principal at the NSS, an immediate $500,000 savings has been identified. CBE has told parents another $500,000 can be saved if the school is moved or closed, which comes with the assumption that all 200 students stay within the CBE. If only half stay within the CBEs, the net savings is closer to $250,000. Is it really worth not giving these students 1 year of savings for $250,000? My request today is that the board schedule a special meeting to table any decisions regarding NSS until November 2020, to allow for A, anxiety reduction of all NSS stakeholders, B, recruitment of this September 2020 school year to commence, C, proper engagement process, and D, time for planning for 2021-22 school year, whatever the November outcome and decision may be. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is item 8.1, annual monitoring of results to academic success. On January 14th and February 4th, 2020, trustees had the opportunity to ask questions regarding the report. The report is now on the agenda for the board to consider whether the chief superintendent is making reasonable progress with the provisions of results to academic success. It is now the board's responsibility to consider the report as evidence of reasonable organizational progress in this results area. The board has previously approved the reasonable interpretation of this results policy, which has set the stage for effective monitoring of actual organizational performance. I would like to remind trustees that today our job is to determine whether or not the report provides sufficient evidence that the CBE has made reasonable progress towards achieving this result, and to build a portfolio of chief superintendent performance in the results half of the chief superintendent's job expectations. I would request that a trustee bring forward a motion regarding this report. Trustee Hare.
Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees has reviewed the monitoring report for results 2, academic success, and concludes that reasonable progress is being made toward the ultimate achievement of this results policy.
Thank you, Trustee Hare. Any amendments or additions to that motion? Trustee Hrdlicka?
I have an amendment. Do you want to read it out? That the motion be amended by the addition of, with the exception of Indigenous students in all academic areas.
All right, trustees, so I'll ask if you have any questions just around the amendment itself. Any questions on the amendment? All right, so the proposed amendment then is that the motion be amended by the addition of, with the exception of Indigenous students in all academic areas. Trustee Hrdlicka, would you like to open debate on the amendment?
So as we look at this report and we see Indigenous students as a cohort, their results are the lowest amongst the other cohorts that we look at. When we look at comparing Indigenous student, for instance, completion rates compared to, at CBE compared to the province, we see that their numbers are much lower than the provincial numbers. And when we look at academic areas on report cards, we also see Indigenous cohort has the lowest average. So based on that information and the work that we do as a board to monitor these results, that shows to me making this an exception is really important for the board to do.
Trustees for first round of debate on the amendment. Any trustees for second round of debate on the amendment? Trustee Hare.
I will support the amendment. I think the issue which Trustee Hrdlicka has raised is one of exceptional importance. And of course, it's of exceptional importance, in particular for a public school system which is open to all. We can do better. In fact, our country can do better and all that kind of stuff there, but this is the issue for us. And we have to face that fact, and we have to put resources into it, and we can't settle for less. We have to do the very, very best we can, and this motion hopefully is a step in that direction. So I will support the amendment.
Any of the trustees for second round of debate on the amendment? Trustee Herdman?
Thank you. In considering this motion, I just want to bring attention that when trustees monitor academic success, it's not about comparisons to other cohorts, it's about reasonable progress. And is reasonable progress being made? And while we know that the results of Indigenous students are below those of other cohorts, when I'm making a decision on this motion, it's not about their actual achievement level, but as a system, are we making progress? Are we moving ahead in improving these results over time? I was happy to see that we are showing improvement at our 3-year graduation rate, our grade 9 English results, our math 6 results, and social sciences really across all grades for Indigenous students. Those are things where we are making progress. And I think we do need to recognize where we are having some success. Now, having said that, I will be supporting the motion because from the data, I don't feel that we are making enough progress. While we are moving forward, there is definitely a lot of room for improvement, and I believe that this board needs to recognize that.
Trustee Adams?
I would just like to echo some of that, and also acknowledge some of the work, well, really all of the work that our administration has done, acknowledging this group and having to find different ways to work with them. Some of these steps are new, I know, and I'm looking forward to them developing even further and looking forward to us being able to start seeing the needle move a little bit. And I think that's going to be really important. And I too will be supporting this amendment. Thank you.
Trustee Hurlica, would you like to close debate?
So I understand that this is a small group of students. I also recognize that there are many Indigenous students that are doing very well. When we look at results for ELA, K&E, acceptable standards, and standard of excellence, for that category, compared to the province, we're higher. When we also look at ELA 30-1, our numbers are higher than Indigenous students in the province, and math 30-1 and 30-2. So there are students doing incredible work. Where our, pointing out the struggle is as a cohort, and I think it is important to look at the students as a cohort in order to have an opportunity to focus resources where they need to be. I think it's really important for us to recognize that this is not about changing Indigenous students. You can't force someone to change, and how can we possibly say it's up to them to take on that burden? What we can do is give them opportunities to connect without judgment and without shame. And it's about listening to their needs and challenges, hopes and dreams. It's about changing how we support Indigenous students. This is always about reevaluating what's working and what's not working. And I don't believe it serves us or the students well when we expect them to just conform to our ways. Our way did not bode well for Indigenous students and families in the past. Why would they trust that we will serve them better moving forward if we continue to have that kind of attitude? What I am hopeful about is seeing many things in the report and the work that's happening. I would say the members of the Elders Advisory working more closely with our leadership in the creation of courses and looking at how we can support students better in our system. I think it's important to recognize that the personal strength, the resilience, the humor, the wisdom, the emphasis of connection, and the deep love for community are core beliefs of Indigenous people. And I would say we could all use some more of that core beliefs in our system, in our world today. And I just want to leave just with one quote. And I think it really sums up, where we're at. And it's called The Journey. It's a little poem. And between who you once were and who you are now becoming is where the dance of life is. And so I think it's time for us to put on our dancing shoes. And I appreciate the opportunity to share that today.
So trustees, I'll call the question. Those in favor of the proposed amendment? That is unanimous. Thank you. Any further amendments to the motion? Trustee Herdman.
Thank you. That the motion be amended by the addition of, and with the exception of student results in English language arts.
Trustees, any questions about that proposed amendment? All right, so the proposed amendment on the floor is that the motion be amended by the addition of, and with the exception of, student results in English language arts. Trustee Herdman, would you like to open debate?
Thank you. As mentioned during the previous amendment, when we look or evaluate whether or not reasonable progress is being made, it's about progress over time. And it's about whether we're moving forward, and we have targets that we set in order to help us with that evaluation. So when we look at the targets that our system has set for English language arts, 3 of the 6 targets were not met. And those were in English language arts 9, in 30-1, and in 30-2. And then if we look at our report card results, well, we didn't set targets there as we're still trying to arrange all of those report card marks. If you just look at all the report card results, you see that except for in grades 7 to 9, so except for Division 3, the report card results for English language arts are the lowest of all subjects. So that is actually a change. We used to be the lowest in math in all subjects, but now English is the lowest in all subjects. So I think that's because we're seeing success in our math strategy, which is great news, but I think we need to recognize the vital importance of English language arts and how foundational that is to success for any student in any academic area. And so due to those factors, I believe that this should be an exception as well.
Any trustees for first round of debate on the amendment? Any trustees for second round on the amendment? Trustee Hrdlicka?
I think it was about 2 or 3 years ago that we had set up the literacy strategy to flag some of the concerns that trustees had regarding English language arts. And I believe it was a couple particular areas that we had initially flagged at that time. And that was a few years ago, and now we're looking at some of these targets, as Trustee Herdman had said, that haven't been met. I think this is one of the areas that we need to continue reevaluating and prioritizing. Students' ability to be able to read and write and to do everything else involved with that is critical for their success. And until we get 100%, we got to keep working on this one, because this is important for not only students in school today, but moving forward wherever they end up. If they don't have the skills that they need around literacy, they are up against big challenges. So from my perspective, this has been an ongoing challenge for us, and I will support that resources continue to go into this area, and it's a priority for the board, so I will be supporting this particular motion.
Trustee Adams and then Trustee Hare.
It's funny, as I listen to my fellow trustees talk, something just keeps running around in my head. And I remember when I was a kid, they called it the 3 R's, which was reading, writing, and arithmetic. I really don't know how they all became 3 R's, but there it is. So this has been something that has been a focus since I was a kid, and I'm sure many, many years before that. And it just goes to show how important it is. And it goes to show how much we always need to keep this in the forefront. So I will be supporting this amendment because I do think this is going to be ongoing, and it's good, and it's going to be continually. And I think it's really important that we always try to improve and always try to make this better because, like you said, it's always going to be the foundational part of our education.
Trustee Hare.
Back in 1972, I negotiated my first contract on behalf of the Alberta Teachers Association in the county of Wheatland and made my presentation, and then the chairman of the board made his presentation. And I looked at it and I said, Reg, if we accept your offer, we're going to be the lowest paid teachers in the province. Reg looked at me and said, Richard, somebody has to be the lowest. Take that for what it's worth. There will always be a subject area which will be at the lowest. Okay, that's just the reality. That's the way the mathematical system works. Somebody's at the top and somebody's at the bottom. And we have to take that message in hand. And we'll always sort of concentrate on the one that needs the most help, and that's a good thing. Okay, that's the reality. And so I will support this motion, this amendment, with the full understanding that I hope in 2 years, or of course I will probably be retired at that point in time, as I've said a number of times, but I guess that's just the way the system works. We have so many priorities, and we have to choose the ones we will face more fully at any point in time. And I appreciate this amendment, and I will support it.
Trustee Bradshaw.
I think I voted against this amendment last year, if I recall, and I'm torn this year. Reading and writing is tricky. There's, I think, a lot of nuance when we're looking at this in the system level as to why the results are the way they are. We have, a large cohort of English language learners who probably aren't hitting their ELA marks out of the park, more so as they move on. But it's a struggle because I see, you're right, we haven't probably hit all the targets, and we're here not to monitor the targets, but the results. So there's a lever at play here that we have to, I guess, shine a spotlight on this. When I look at the big picture, I'm still not sure. So, yeah. I hope you guys have more to say because I need to think.
Well, this is second round of debate, and I'm the last one to speak, so I don't know if I have enough to say to convince you to accept this amendment or not. Trustee Bradshaw, I don't have 10 minutes. I have 3, and I've already used about 25 seconds with this little prologue. So something that I ponder is that when we think about, we're preparing students for a future that we don't know or understand, right? And so what do we need to do? What are the foundational pieces that our students need to be confident in so that they can move away from us and on to the next phase, whether, post-secondary career, being able to build a fulfilling, life for themselves where they can support themselves and their families and contribute to society. And I came across a video this weekend actually that talked about that. How do we prepare students for a future that we don't we can't necessarily predict? And it landed on literacy and numeracy. So we need to do a good job of those things. And, obviously as a system, we do, we offer so much for all the students, and, we're so proud to welcome every single student into our system, regardless of their ability or their background, and work so hard to meet their needs. And, but that literacy piece is really important. They need to be able to communicate well. They need to be able to understand what they're reading and dissect that. They need to be able to interpret and reinterpret and apply what they're learning in that way to whatever task is in front of them. And so we do need to focus. We do need to make sure that we are assigning resources to ensure that our students are building competency in that area. Further to what Trustee Bradshaw said, we do have a significant population of English language learners, right? 30,000 of them. That's an amazing number, and we're so blessed to have them in our system. And yeah, that creates challenge, because these are English language learners. They're not ESL. They're not English as second language. For some of these students, this is their third, fourth, fifth language that they're learning. And we're, and they come to us and we're teaching them in English, and that's hard, even for those of us who are born in households that are English speaking. But so yeah, I'm happy to support this amendment. Because I think that the skills that our students need and that they will learn in English language arts are foundational to their success moving forward. Trustee Herdman, would you like to close debate?
Just to give Trustee Bradshaw a little more time to think. I do want to address something about, we're not monitoring targets, we're monitoring results. Our targets are our results. So I'm not quite sure what you meant by that, but maybe we can have a discussion later. I would say that our targets this year are very different than past reports. Before, our target was to be at or above the provincial average, or to be improving over time. And they were kind of just vague targets like that. I think this board has decided to be a lot more deliberate in its target setting, and for good reasons. We want to be able to show what we are actually working towards and not just have vague directions. So I think that these targets that the board has approved based on administration recommendations are ones that we should take seriously. And if we're not meeting the targets, then that is something that needs to be recognized as well. With regards, I think we've heard a lot about the importance of English language arts and how that benefits all students. I know that the board just passed an amendment around Indigenous students, and I think it's very difficult with it's coming from an oral culture when a lot of academics is based on a lot of reading and writing, and that a good solid foundation in English language arts will do a lot to benefit Indigenous student results in all academic areas as well. And so I hope that trustees vote in favor of this amendment.
All right, Trustee Bradshaw, I've stalled as long as we can. A couple extra seconds of silence there. So I need to call the question. Those in favor of the proposed amendment? That is Trustees Hrdlicka, Hare, Herdman, Adams, and Dennis. Those opposed? Trustee Bradshaw. So I understand there are no further proposed amendments. All right, so if there are no further proposed amendments, the motion on the floor for consideration is the following. That the Board of Trustees has reviewed the monitoring report for results to academic success and concludes that reasonable progress is being made toward the ultimate achievement of this results policy, with the exception of Indigenous students in all academic areas and student results in English language arts. So Trustee Hare, that was your original motion. Would you like to open debate?
I think it's important that we do take a look at the big picture. We've just dealt with two amendments which sort of highlight weaknesses or places where we can improve. And I supported both the amendments. Nonetheless, I think we have to be clear that this system is doing a remarkable job in regards to results and the issues that we also focus on, like democratic values, integration of various cultures, acceptance, inclusion, and those kind of things which are inherent parts of the public school system. Nonetheless, we know that learning is our central purpose. And I think, for the most part, we are making more than reasonable progress. We're making very good, if not exceptional, progress. Certainly, we have areas which we need to move to and focus on, but nonetheless, I believe we are doing a very, very good job, and I think this report basically highlights it, and I think we should have no problem in supporting it unanimously.
Any trustees for first round of debate? Trustee Herdman?
Thank you. I'm pleased to support this motion with the amendments. I'm just going to state now that I will not be bringing forward any motions of concern afterwards, which I know we have done in previous years. Although, if you look, there were some other targets that we did not meet, and some people might say, well, aren't you still concerned about math? Or some of those French results aren't really quite what we want to see. But the reason why I'm limiting myself to just the main motion with the exceptions as noted is because I really want this system to focus. We are going to be entering a time of significant budget constraints for the foreseeable future, and we can't do everything. And to pretend that we can it's not reality. And so I do want us to really focus on where we see the most need for improvement and where we can make the most impact. I am happy to support a motion of reasonable progress because I do see progress in many areas. Our 3-year graduation rate, according to provincial statistical measures, has seen significant improvement, as well as specifically within our special education cohort, where it was more of a concern before, but this year we saw a significant improvement there. I think at the end of the day, that is our mission. It's high school completion. That is what our mission statement is around. And I do think that we are making reasonable progress towards the achievement of that mission and in all other academic areas.
Any other trustees for first round of debate? Trustee Hrdlicka?
So I will be supporting this motion. I agree, I think, in many ways to what my trustees have already mentioned. We are doing exceptional work in our system throughout the different academic areas. I myself, when I looked at the report, there were a couple areas that I would take exception to, that I think we could be doing better at. I also recognize that we have redone this particular report, and this is the baseline year. So trying to compare it to previous years was kind of problematic. So again, I did find some challenges that I'll be looking at for next year and seeing where they're at. But because this work has been done, and we've done a lot of work on this report over the last year, because this is academic success. This is one of, the most important policies that we monitor. This is for our kids and seeing where they're at. So even though I had some hesitation in pulling out some other areas, I think we are really doing extraordinary. And I don't actually think that we recognize that enough. I think we're always combating the negative and combating the critiques, which is important because we want to learn and we want to move forward from that. But man, we got to celebrate. When our kids do well, we got to celebrate that because our kids want to celebrate it. And if all we do is say that we're not good enough, then how does that help our kids? What kind of messages are we telling our kids? So I'm happy to support this and recognize the incredible work of the system, and looking forward to moving forward on this report next year.
Any other trustees for first round of debate? Right, moving to second round of debate. Trustee Herdman.
I also need to say that we do really well in science. I think that needs to be stated, and I think we see that in our international results as well. Alberta blows the rest of the world. Like, we're at number 2 in the world in science, and for the second results of PISA in a row now. And the Calgary Board of Education has a lot of students amongst Alberta students, so we drive a lot of those provincial results. And if you look at our science results across all science subjects, they are phenomenal. And they have been for a long time. And I think that we need to recognize where we are really seeing success. And I love that our students are doing so well in science as a science person. And because it's really the creativity and the problem solving and the really exploring problems that you do in science classes that I really believe sets up students for future success, no matter what area they go into. So I am really happy to see such strong science results.
Trustee Adams.
I agree with my fellow trustees. Sometimes we don't celebrate our achievements as much as I really think that we could. While we have noted some exceptions, which is always going to be the case, there's always going to be always those little rooms for improvement as well. But I think we really need to celebrate what we do as a whole entire system. It's interesting because I came to this as a parent who got very focused, of course, on my own little kids. And then, of course, you start to learn about the class. As a trustee, you really learn about what the entire system is all about. And the complexities in our system is enormous. And it always amazes me, even in a single classroom, the complexities in one classroom, and how our teachers and their assistants and how they all work together to help. It's just amazing. It's amazing that we can still achieve under some of these circumstances. And I agree that I think our next budget's going to be a little tight, maybe. Hard to say, but it's coming up soon, which is, I think, why we always point out the exceptions, because to help we're going to focus just a little bit, focus some of our resources. But I think overall, again, especially in science, we have done really well, and it's definitely worth celebrating these achievements.
All right, so I'll jump in on second round. I and my fellow trustees have already commented on kind of where I was going to go today is that I think that we definitely have something to be really proud of, just with how all of our students and our staff are doing, but in particular in science, we have some really exciting results there, and definitely a reason to be proud and encouraged. I will be supporting the motion with the amendments, and I'm optimistic that we will continue to see reasonable progress with our students. And the reason I say that is if for anyone who maybe hasn't had the opportunity to read the entire report, it's a big one, it's 128 pages. And so if you haven't taken a few minutes to read through that, I would encourage you to take a look at the building capacity sections. In particular, what's identified in there is clearly how our system has identified, where challenges are and what they're going to do to tackle those things. And so those sections there give me confidence in moving forward. But of course, it is our responsibility to identify areas where we maybe want to highlight. And I'm thankful to my fellow trustees for bringing forward the amendments, and we'll be looking forward to supporting the motion. Any other trustees for a second round? Trustee Hrdlicka?
We had this amazing presentation by our students today. Students that have this opportunity to actually, I just think about when I went to school, to zero in and be engaged on something that you never thought you'd be engaged on. And all of a sudden this opportunity is in front of you, where maybe for various reasons you didn't have means before to be able to get connected with that opportunity. And when I look at these results, and I look at even, all the students or ELL, Indigenous students, special ed, we look at CTF and we look at the arts and we look at areas around French, some of these other opportunities that we're able to offer our children and our students, we see that across the board, that engagement and that opportunity. And that to me gives me such hope and also highlights the importance of these other areas. Sometimes we gotta get stuck in there's only certain subjects that are actually important to students. But as we heard today, every kid is unique. And having those opportunities for every kid, not just those that are really good in math, to be able to have more math courses. And I feel that thinking that direction to create a system that only offers courses that will get kids into positions that work for an economy is very short-sighted. I think opportunity, extensive opportunity for the uniqueness of every child is what is needed to build and strengthen our system. And what we're doing here at the CBE is a great example of that.
Any other trustees for a second round of debate before I ask Trustee Hare to close? Trustee Hare.
These exceptional results don't just happen by accident. They're the result of a lot of hard work by everybody in the system. Caretakers, bus drivers, lunchroom aides, teachers. All of these and others contribute to the success. It doesn't happen by accident. This report exhibits clearly what a well-run public school system can do. It states it loudly and it states it clearly. We choose to be the best we can be. We've got the results to back it up. We're not going to quit. We're going to keep on trying to get better, because that's our mission and our mandate. I certainly hope this motion passes unanimously.
All right, so I'll call the question. Those in favor of the motion? That is unanimous. Thank you. That brings us to the consent agenda of our meeting. All items not removed from the consent agenda will be deemed to be approved with the agenda. As mentioned by Ms. Minor earlier, we did have a request that item 9.2.1 be removed from consent. So that is the Chief Superintendent's update. I understand that there are some questions on that update. Trustee Hrdlicka.
So as I look to page 5 of 6, under strategic allocation of resources to support student needs. And I love this, the Good Day Sunshine rebate. That's made me happy. Good Day Sunshine. That's the nickname that students have given this particular initiative, which is really cool. I would just like to know, I've just got a couple questions about the update here. It says that Municipal Climate Change Action Center provided the CBE with a check for $62,500 in recognition of our work performance to mitigate greenhouse gas emissions in Alberta. Tell me about this $62,500 a little bit more about it.
Chair Dennis to Trustee Hrdlicka. So the MCCAC, if we could call it that, the Municipal Climate Change Action Center, manages on behalf of the province and is an organization that was created in partnership with municipalities. So the Government of Alberta, the Alberta Urban Municipalities Association, and the Rural Municipalities of Alberta Association that manages this Solar for Schools program, amongst other programs. And so you will recall that the Board of Trustees last May also approved up to $2.5 million in capital reserves for a similar undertaking, but of much larger capacity. Obviously, given the monetary value, you can imagine that the capacity is of those 6 school projects would be easily over 20 times what these 5 projects are producing, and would conceivably allow us to, under the Solar for Schools program, be eligible for a $1.1 million rebate. All school jurisdictions have the ability to submit programs against this Solar for Schools or projects against the Solar for Schools program. And in the case of the Calgary Board of Education, the upper limit of any total grant that can be, or rebate that can be given to the CBE would be a total of $2 million.
So this grant that we're talking, or this initiative that we're talking about here, was this the one that we approved back in November, or was this this was a previous grant that was or initiative that was approved?
Correct. So Chair Dennis to Trustee Hrdlicka. This project for 5 schools was approved for use through the capital reserves, again, by the Board of Trustees. I believe it was back in September of 2017. And so it took approximately 2.5 years for the CBE to conclude the work, submit all of the paperwork, and receive the rebate.
So the $62,500, we invested $100,000. And so since then, now we've received $62,500. That's a pretty good investment, I would say. And I would say it just happens that I was on the board at that time when we made this decision. And I think what really was appealing at that time was the, working with Bullfrog. That partnership was really important, and that opportunity came up. And what I would say with the previous board and with this board, the importance of looking at today, but also looking at the future. I mean, we can spin our wheels thinking about what's going to happen, dealing with today, but we also have to think about those investments in the future. And I was so pleased to see this, because this was an important decision, not only for the previous board, but I know the decision that we made just last year, because we are looking to the future for our kids. And as we talked about previously, what is the world going to look like when our kids graduate, in the next 20, 30 years? The decisions that we make today in this boardroom affect that. And we take that really seriously. And I said, I think the other piece to that is, financially, us as an organization, but us as a board, are very, very committed to making responsible financial decisions in the best interest of this organization, and we'll continue to do that. And I just want to say thank you for highlighting this and bringing it forward.
That's it? No more questions? All right, good. All right, the board has 3 legal, 1 labor, and 2 strategic planning matters to deal with in camera following the public portion of this meeting. That brings us to the conclusion of this portion of the agenda. I'd like to thank all of you who joined us for this meeting. Our next public board meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, March 3rd, 2020.